Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Mind and Body Podcast. I'm joined with my friends here, Dave, AJ. How are you guys doing?
Great, man. This is awesome. I'm so glad to be back.
There was that pause. There was that pause there. And I was like, uh-oh, what happened?
No.
You guys doing okay?
No, we're doing good, exciting to be here and love this topic. So
I think AJ was just trying to be polite, deferring to the older gentleman. Dave,
The
you guys
elders.
I just want to make sure you guys got your computers turned on. You guys are both much older than me.
Hey, I will admit that I have found that I am less computer literate than I thought I was. And my 12-year-old daughter is showing me up on a lot of stuff lately. And I'm thinking, I didn't even know the computer could do that. And she's blowing my mind, just blowing my mind with some of this.
Yeah. Stuff. Oh my goodness, dude. My son has been playing some Fortnite. I don't know if you're familiar with Fortnite.
Oh man. Mm-hmm.
But, I heard it years ago. I started kind of playing it with him a little bit. And I've been seeing some reels because I've researched a few things, and now I'm seeing all these Fortnite reels. But but one thing I realize is sometimes when I get destroyed, it's man, I just probably got taken out by a 7-year-old. They're probably just they're building up
Fortnite.
everything. And yeah, go ahead.
So I like first person shooter games. I loved Fortnite, except for when it comes to the building. You're in a game and you're shooting and you're trying to. I try to snipe people. I just try to snipe people, and they're finding me they're jumping all over the place. They're building forts around themselves, and I'm thinking, I can barely run from one place to the other.
Yeah,
this
it's
is
more
nuts.
like a castle. It's you shoot at them and poof, a castle pops up. You're like, what the heck?
How did that happen? Right. What buttons do you push for that? And dude, my daughter's laughing at me.
Play Fortnite. I'd love to just throw up one wall and run.
Let's go back to GoldenEye. Yes. It'll be good. That's will be good.
AJ for AJ to know GoldenEye was one of the.
I had it on N64 and I would play Oddjob. You'd be shorter than everybody else.
Oh yeah. And you just kneecap people.
Yeah, dude.
That's it
perfect.
With Oddjob.
Right.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I'm learning some things about you guys. This is great.
That's right.
So I guess to get to some topic related to mind and body, we were going to talk today about building muscle, really building muscle after 40. Now we kind of threw around some after 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, but that got a little bit wordy. So I just decided to stick with building muscle after 40. What changes and what still works? And I'm excited about this. I'm excited about hearing from AJ because AJ has all these working theories. AJ, how old are you again?
So I'm 32. I'm 32 years young.
So I can't wait this year.
I know I was picking on you guys for being older than me, but I did a triathlon on Monday. I had a great race. It was fantastic. I got second in my division, but my division is by weight class. And the guy who got first was a full 34 years older than me. He was 66 years old, and this guy was a stud.
Wow.
I was standing there next to him. I was like, dude, you should have here's my medal. You got it, dude.
That's awesome.
I was like, you're who I want to be when I grow up. I was so impressed with this guy.
That's awesome. No, yeah, I saw the pictures, man. That's fantastic. And I love that you're committed to doing that every year. I think you said you're going to try to do it.
That is great.
So when you're 60 something, somebody will be looking up at you he's amazing.
Maybe, but it was
that's good stuff.
Actually, that was if you don't mind, I was going to jump in and share something that I found really interesting in my preparation for the race. Was this study about triathletes and how it affects our muscles.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, go for it.
So this is Runner's World. Are you guys seeing that?
I am not seeing it yet.
There we go. Hold up. There we go. So this is a Runner's World article referencing, and it references the study. You can pull it up if you look it up. But so it starts off with, this is the MRI of a quadricep of a 40-year-old man who's sedentary. His lifestyle is sedentary. And if you come down a little bit further, you can see here a 40-year-old tricep or a quadricep of a 40-year-old triathlete. And so the difference between the two of these is noticeable, but not significant. You probably couldn't draw those out. What was really interesting though was if you come down a little bit further, here's a 74-year-old who's sedentary's um, quad as well, and you can just see the adipose tissue and how like dilapidated the muscles become, and comparing that to here's a 70-year-old triathlete, and
Mm.
Yeah. Wow.
that just blew my mind. Like I was really just inspired to recognize the effects that exercise can have. I mean, the MRI speaks for itself, but more than that is just thinking about the lifestyle of these four individuals. And probably at 40, that sedentary person may have some trouble moving, having some trouble with like some daily tasks, but is probably has a good quality of life. But that 74-year-old versus that 70-year-old, um, carrying in groceries, steps. I mean, my mom, she's 63, and she talked about like, she now, whenever she sees a set of stairs, she looks to make sure it has like a good handrail. And
Right.
like, I would imagine that 70-year-old triathlete, he's climbing upstairs like it's no problem. That 66-year-old that I was
Mm.
racing against, he was able to ride his bike and like he was swimming. He's like the quality of life that muscle gives is
Oh yeah,
it
100%.
makes a
Yeah.
huge difference. It's
What?
not about throwing
Why do
around
you?
big weights.
Yeah. Why do you think people assume that just like, hey, later in life, you really can't really build muscle. Like some
Right.
people even think like, man, after 40, like you're not going to be able to build any significant muscle. I think that narrative's changing a little bit, but still there's that myth that's like, man, after 40, it's just kind of downhill. Why do you think that is?
Downhill from there.
Yeah,
Let's
why
ask
do you
the
guys think that is?
32-year-old. 32-year-old.
Yeah.
Why do you think? Because you're coming up. You're not there
Well,
yet. You're like way young.
yeah, so I mean, you guys lived through like stuff like the Depression, but I mean, like, you see
Oh, come
you
on.
look at like
No.
old exercise videos and stuff, and you see like if you look back, like a 40-year-old in the 80s did not look the way that a 40-year-old in 2025 looks. Like it just like if you watch movies and stuff, like they're the access to nutrition wasn't there, the exercise science wasn't there, the lifestyle wasn't there in a lot of ways. I mean, if you were 40 years old in the 80s, like you were probably smoking, like, and we know things like that. Um, um, the effects of alcohol on recovery. We
Mm,
know more now, and I think people are a little bit more tuned into, oh, like I'm probably going to live into my 60s, 70s, 80s, and I don't just want to exist during those times. I also want to thrive in those times and enjoy those times of my life. And if
yeah.
you're not intentional about it, then you're going to struggle.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
with
I think.
go ahead, Dave. Take a
Oh
stab.
man. No, I was going to say that's true for I don't know about the majority of people. I think of my grandfather who passed away a couple of years at 90, 94 years old. When he didn't work out as traditionally speaking. He never smoked. He did drink in his early years, but after really he put his faith in Jesus Christ, his life changed. So he stopped drinking, he stopped all that kind of stuff. And so in the who a guy who actually went through the depression when he was in his 60s in the 80s, he actually increased his muscle mass. He increased his ability to move and have a better lifestyle. This guy was 91 years old, and he built an addition on his house by himself, hanging sheetrock, running electrical. I mean, stick to finish. He did it all at 91 years old.
That's so
Phenomenal
cool.
amount. So he had a great quality of life, but I think it's because of his mindset
Mm,
and where his heart was, depending or compared to, let's say, my great uncle who just passed away at 83 years old, who most of his adult life was smoking, drinking, just enjoying what he considered enjoying the days that he had.
mm,
He had a lower quality of life because of a mindset and a lack of desire to really work. My grandpa loved work, My uncle, not so much. He worked for the money. He worked for retirement. And once he retired, he let his body go. So I think there's more to it than this. I'm sure there's a lot more studies out there about why people um, think 40. Once you hit 40, that's it. You know, we're just kind of in this drudge of work, family, sleep, wake up and repeat.
Yeah.
And then it's you know, that alone makes my legs hurt and my knees hurt just thinking about like, oh, if that's the end of my life, if that's the sum total of what I'm about, then why get up in the morning and work out? Why get up and try to make a difference in the world? Why coach? Because what's the point after that? There's nothing. So the mindset, I think, is incredibly incredibly important when it comes to those who go to 40 thinking this isn't it. This is just the beginning. Because I'm 40 years old and I feel mentally I'm 18. I mean, that's just where I am mentally. Like I feel like I can relate to the 18-year-olds, although they tell me I can't all the time. But physically, I don't feel 40 now. There's some aches and pains and there's some, of course, obvious signs, but I don't feel 40. I feel like I'm still in my 20s.
They say that they're just being Ohio, Dave. You got all the skibbity riz.
Skibbity riz.
Okay. Oh, man. Getting to the new ebonics. Can't help you there.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I think the nuance here is interesting because I think, AJ, you have a point that the science behind training, nutrition is definitely advanced.
It's advanced now.
But the amount of distraction and processed foods have also greatly enhanced and moved forward. I say enhanced, but I don't mean that in a positive sense.
In
I mean,
a good way.
Yeah, exactly. So, so there you see these like people that are like even in their 50s and 60s are just absolutely ripped. Well, part of that, I think, and I don't just mean like you could see their muscles, like their performance is high. They have a high performance in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that is a result of the science being so much more dialed in. But the distractions and the access to processed foods also has increased the amount of obesity. I still felt an interesting trend. Like my parents' generation, I felt like it was rare to see somebody in their 40s in shape. And I think it was because they worked a lot, but there was a transition with some of the technologies and everything happening. A lot of people were more sedentary than their parents were, but they didn't have the exercise rhythm as much. So there's a lot of people in my parents' generation that was just in their 40s or out of shape. My generation, I feel like you see a whole lot more people in shape in their 40s, or maybe I'm just getting 40 and I feel like I'm seeing more. But I will say
you're projecting here. You want that to be the reality.
Yeah. Well, but I'll say though, like the youth, and this is like statistically, I can't say statistics. There we go. Got it. Verified that the young generation right now is one of the most out of shape generations.
Yes.
So they're coming up and the science is there, but it's like a lot of them don't really care about it right now. And that's not dogging on them. I'm sure they'll kick it into gear here soon. But right now it's just like, wow, there's a lot of teenagers today that just they're not taking care of themselves. You know, they're not lifting. Science is there, but I think the distractions, the Fortnite, they're really good at building in Fortnite.
Right. They are.
That's what I always say. In Fortnite, they have this term called sweats. Are you familiar with that? It's like the people that are just like really sweaty, like they're at home, like working really hard.
They're going after it.
Like they're like the unemployed. They're working really hard at Fortnite all the time. It's just like that guy's really sweaty. Like I shot one bullet at him, and there's this whole like castle that gets built up, and I'm like, and when you die, you're like, I didn't die because it was fair. They hacked the system. They're sweats, you know, whatever. Which probably just means I was really bad and they were just good. But anyways,
that's right.
But yeah, there's this interesting play on how times have changed, science developed, but more distractions.
Right.
But I think the bottom line is after 30, there is this phenomenon called sarcopenia where naturally we start to lose between 3 to 8% of muscle mass every decade if it's not mitigated with nutrition and training. And so if you don't have a habit of training and nutrition, you'll be fine in your teen years and your 20s, but man, when you start to round the corner to your 30s, it's when it starts to show up. You start to feel
Big
that way.
time.
But if you started training when you were young, you might not feel any transition different from 20s and 30s. You might actually feel even better. I know for me, I did. I felt better in my 30s than I did in my 20s. And
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, AJ.
Well, I was going to say, like, what you're describing is actually what kicked off my fitness journey. Is I was always kind of like the big guy who was just like naturally strong. I, I was never like just morbidly obese, but I also was never put any effort into like physical fitness. And then like I hit 30 and that, kids start rolling along and stuff. And all of a sudden, like I looked in the mirror and I was like, I'm going to weigh 300 pounds and be miserable. Like
Hmm.
this is, I'm head, and it was accelerating like very quickly year in. And so it was like, we need to figure out what we're going to do here.
Mm,
Otherwise, I'm very quickly going to end up I'm on a path that's going to lead to an unhealthy lifestyle. And so that kicked off. Aging actually inspired me to get in shape.
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Good for
Yeah.
you. I mean, that's fantastic. And sometimes we need that critical, like, it's almost like a tipping point. We need that pain point to
Hmm.
kind of move us on. It's like the pain of staying the same outweighed the pain of change. And now
Hmm.
we're moving into
And
a
it
different,
switched. It just went
yeah.
the opposite direction. That's, yeah, I think that's a common, for those who are coaching, that's a commonality that we hear. People are like, I just don't like being where I am. I have high
Mm,
blood pressure, overweight, feeling tired all the time. I just don't like being there. So I want to change. And a lot of the times it's in the 30s. It's we're waiting a little longer because in our 20s, I don't know, for me in my 20s, I felt like I was just really busy
mm,
and didn't really want to focus on fitness as much as I wanted to focus on where am I going next? What's my quote unquote career? What's going to
yeah.
happen in my relational lives? And I was more focused on that than focusing on fitness. And I think I bought into a myth. I think a lot of people do too. The myth that um, that we work when we're young, and then when we're old we just relax and we enjoy the time. Now I really believe this, that we work now, and I'm 40 now, so I'm working harder now than I did in my 20s. I'm working harder now, not wiser, I would say, as well, wiser, not just brute strength but wiser, so that way I can actually enjoy the rest of the time that I have. I don't know if you've ever heard it said. I've heard this a couple times. Like, um, sure, I studies show or people say that you can add 10 years to your life if you just start running or jogging.
Mm,
So,
mhm.
but then you spend it jogging and running, and they kind of make it a joke, like you just spend those 10 years jogging. Well, the reality is okay, you will spend extra time doing exercise, walking even. If you just spend your time walking, you're going to be in better shape. You're going to be a healthier person. But you
Yes.
got to spend the time to do that. But that exponentially increases the quality of time that you have the for the rest of the whatever 23 hours of your life. It's of your day. It's so much better to spend the half hour or hour focusing on your physical health and mental at the same time, and then enjoy the rest of your life. Even the sleep is better. So uh,
Yeah.
you could joke all you want, like you spend that 10 years running, but the quality of life you have during that time is so much better. It is so much, it's so worth it just to get involved in fitness, even in a small way. But going back to like the sarcopenia, the muscle, the muscle protein synthesis after 35 and 40, how it decreases. Um, that's just a natural thing that happens to everybody, and there is an answer to that, right? It's not just, oh well, it just happens, so we just kind of need to suck it up and
Mhm.
roll with it and deal with the inactivity. No, there's an answer to it, right? I mean, part of it is just increasing your protein intake as you get older. It's not keeping the same amount that you used to eat, and part of that is tracking what you eat. how do you know what you're eating? How do you know what you're getting unless you track it? I was with a guy, I was with a client actually in person because I'm an online coach, but I was actually in person with a client a couple of weeks ago, and we went to the famous Chick-fil-A, right? And I got a grilled sandwich and whatever else because that I actually logged it and was within. I could eat Chick-fil-A and still be in a good deficit.
The macros.
Right?
Yeah,
loving it. Well, he got. I thought he was ordering for his whole family. He got like 4 sandwiches. He had a couple of kids. 4 sandwiches, some fries, and so and he sits down and he eats like 3 of them right in front of me, and I'm like, wait a minute, dude, what are you doing? Your fat content's going through the roof. Your carbs, your protein's okay, but now you've you maxed out the dial of your calorie intake, and your protein's still like nothing. You got maybe 4-5 ounces of protein with those chicken sandwiches, and everything else is fat and carbs. No wonder you feel terrible. No wonder you feel slow and sluggish. And I just thought, man, we gotta focus on figuring out what we eat and then dialing in the macronutrients and getting that protein intake in. It's so important.
Yeah.
It's a sad day the first time you decide to log a Chick-fil-A sauce.
The sauce alone right there.
There's 160 calories in one of those bad boys. You can have the Coke or you can have one of those packs.
Man. Now it comes in the container, right? The Chick-fil-A sauce comes in the container.
It's just,
you can just
a bottle of diabetes.
It's
just a bottle of diabetes. Like you just mainline it. It's terrifying.
Right.
That was this. Like I was so happy. I got like the grilled nuggets and like I had a small fry. I was like, we're good. And like I ate and I was like, this will be perfect. And then I went to log and I was like, how many of those sauces did I eat? 4. And it was like, scratch that day off.
You wanted to throw your phone, right? Like, man, why did I do that?
Yeah, they're so small and so delicious. So
yeah, it's amazing when you start tracking stuff, how you remember like, oh yeah, Chick-fil-A sauce is this many calories. You just like remember that kind of stuff. That's really funny. But no, you hit on a really good point though, Dave. Like, and this is probably true from anybody from teens, 20s, 30s, 40s. You want to dial in these things, like with your protein intake, your macronutrients, your training. But like now, let's get a little bit more specific in what actually changes. Like, what changes when you start to get into maybe your later 30s, 40s, into your 50s and 60s. And this is a couple of things that we see scientifically that does change. And I think it's worth noting here. I always dog on this point. I know what people mean, but when they say age is just a number, it's like, no, it's not. Things change when you age. And if you don't adapt, you're going to run into issues unless you're Tom Cruise. But besides Tom Cruise, all of us age.
Come on.
Okay. Plug for Tom Cruise. Anyways, I haven't seen
Mission Impossible. I haven't seen the latest one.
I want to. I'm just like, man, that guy. I just want to like run with him. Like, he's just crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, here are a couple things that change. Number one is protein synthesis slows down. Now, I have an article that I'm not going to pull up on the screen, but I just want to share some of the findings. This is from Moore and Colleagues 2015 article. And this article basically shows that older adults require more protein than younger individuals to effectively stimulate muscle protein synthesis. This is abbreviated as MPS. So this is due to an age-related thing called anabolic resistance, where the body responds to protein intake diminishing over time. So the study, I'll link the study in the notes here, but older men need approximately 68% more protein per meal to achieve the same MPS response as younger men. So specifically, an older adult requires about 0.40 grams of protein per kilogram. Now, notice I said kilograms. So if you're going to, from pounds to kilogram, you want to calculate that. All these scientific studies typically use kilograms, so you have to kind of translate, or I do anyways.
I have to, yeah.
And this compares to 0.24 grams per kilogram for like younger adults. So a lot of times older adults will start to kind of eat less. They're like, my body just doesn't need as much. They do the same thing with sleep, by the way. I don't need as much sleep. I don't need as much food, but they actually need like significant amount of both. Now, sleep doesn't necessarily need to be more. They just need to fight for maintaining good sleep patterns, because
Yeah,
sleep is a
quality
super drug
sleep.
for recovery. Part of the reason why recovery starts to slow down is that sleep starts to get shorter, and
Mm,
you gotta pay attention to that. But so it's actually increasing these things, not diminishing these things, particularly when it comes to nutrition. And the macronutrient that's probably most vital is that protein. And increasing in fat is probably good too, just because all of your hormone productions stems off of just getting good healthy fats.
right,
So that's important. Some people will also lessen too low a degree of carbohydrates, which is performance. So it's kind of like, once you understand nutrition, it's kind of like, duh, why are we
right,
going lower when our bodies are naturally declining? We need more support, not less.
right.
And so that's an important thing. So a good
Yeah,
rule of
with
thumb is to try to eat like, for and this might be difficult, but try to say, I'm going to try to get 40 grams, probably 30 to 50 grams is probably a good metric of protein at each meal. And then you'll probably still want to have like some type of shake or snack that has more protein in it. But yeah, go ahead, you
So
guys.
when
oh
you're speaking, oh, sorry, Dave.
no, go ahead, AJ.
So I was just whenever you're speaking like someone in their 40s, 50s, and they're wanting to build muscle, do you, I know in the past we've talked about like for bodybuilders, the idea of like having 5 small meals a day to like stretch out muscle synthesis or protein synthesis throughout the day. For those older individuals, does the spreading out the intake of protein, is that what that study was showing, that it makes a bigger difference to actually increase protein throughout the day instead of having kind of just like a few spikes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm actually not sure if this study talks to um, the
The
uh,
timing.
the timing of protein, but I do know of other studies. Just generally speaking, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage with spacing out your meals, just from a digestive
Hmm.
um,
Right.
protein synthesis perspective. But the big mover really is like, if you get it in, even people that do like intermittent fasting and they do all their
Hmm.
protein in like 2 meals, which is crazy, um, they're still getting the major benefits from getting that nutrition in. There's probably a slight edge, and this is why bodybuilders do it. There's probably a slight edge to actually spreading your meals out between, at the least, 3, at the most probably 5.
And
Like,
I found just
something over that's
psychologically.
unnecessary. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, John, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Um, no, I just found that psychologically that helps me when I spread it out throughout 5 or 6 meals. It helps me not overeat at night, and
Oh, yeah.
especially if I have a high protein snack before I go to bed. Not like right before I go to bed, but an hour, half an hour before I go to bed. It helps me kind of mentally um, turn off that hunger beast inside of me, because you're burning a lot of calories when you work out, and when you're older, you're still burning calories. Your metabolism, they say, slows down, which I'm seeing I'm seeing some different research on that alone, that your metabolism may slow down because of a lack of sleep and because of the fact that you're not eating as much. But if you bring that protein in and you bring the right amount of nutrients in and you get a quality amount of sleep, 7 to 9 hours a night, which is hard for me, 7 to 8, that's, I can try to get that. But
Yeah.
once you get that, your metabolism, because of the amount of fat you're getting in for hormone production, and the amount your body is now recovering from the workouts and your daily life, your metabolism kind of stays steady and sometimes increases. Some of these studies that I've seen. But also, I was going to mention this about the muscle protein synthesis, the decrease of synthesis as you get older. There is a study that I found about beta uh, beta hydroxy beta methylbutyrate, which is it's a metabolite of leucine, which helps prevent muscle loss in older adults. A lot of these studies are done from a perspective of an individual who's bedridden, so 65 years and over after surgery or something debilitating that doesn't allow them to walk or get around. a lot of these have shown that individuals that are age 65 or older have seen their body composition stay the same by using this HMB, it's called. So the supplement, it really is has beneficial effects on muscle loss in older adults. It's kind of neat to see, even if we're injured, even if we get to a place where we can't work out like we used to, because as we get older, injuries do increase. And mainly, if we don't get that workout in, we're the biggest concern is the loss of that lean muscle mass. So if we use supplements like this HMB, that could help maintain the lean muscle mass even in an injury. And I'm wondering, I don't know about the science behind this, but I'm wondering, as we look at the science coming up, I'm wondering if people who are taking this on a regular basis keep their muscle mass, and only, especially as we get older, continue to build muscle at a healthier rate. Right? I mean, I'm thinking that if the older I get, if I take this while I'm working out and I'm healthy, I can build more lean muscle and my metabolism can become healthier. And this MPS, this loss of protein synthesis, could, I don't know about reverse, but at least be sustained for a longer period of time. I don't know. That's just something I found. These supplements are kind of awesome. They're really helpful within moderation.
Yeah, anything that can help with muscle retention is going to be a huge asset for people. You mentioned metabolism slowing down, and that is true. But it's really interesting. Like, if you get into the studies about how much the metabolism slows down, I was looking at a Harvard study, and they found
Oh, cool.
that after 90, your metabolism slows down by about 1% every year. It's actually a little bit less than that. But of course, across like the full spectrum of people they studied like people who are 1 year old up to into their 90s. The difference between the people in the middle of the group and that 90-year-old was only about 26%. So you figure for an individual who's burning the 2,000 recommended daily calories a day, that's only 500 calories for a 90-year-old. Like, obviously you need to adjust for it, but I think sometimes we kind of use our metabolism as like the boogeyman. It's like, oh, I turned 30 and my metabolism just shut off. And it's like, it maybe dropped by, I've heard thrown around like 10% over a decade, which would be a pretty drastic change, but it's not going to be this night or day thing. What's more than likely is your lifestyle changes, stress builds up. You turn 30. That's usually when people have young kids running around. My sleep routine is not as dialed in as it was before I had kids. So those things can affect metabolism, but age isn't just affecting your metabolism.
Yeah, that's really good. I think the metabolism can be kind of that card that people pull, or genetics. Like, oh, it's my genetics, and I definitely think it could be a lid to their own development. I do think, though, there's declines that it's like you can almost think of it like a microdose. Like, you have, your metabolism slowing down, but you have other declining factors that kind of are put under the umbrella of metabolism, which is not really just metabolism, but it's an accumulation of factors that are just kind of slowing down or almost putting you into this catabolic state. And the fact is, we accelerate a poor metabolism, not because the metabolism naturally declines, but just by the fact of like losing muscle mass, you become subpar. The way people diet can actually put their metabolism in a critical place, not in a crashing place, but it accelerates what did you say, 26%?
Yeah, 26% between the middle of the study group and the 90-year-olds.
So
that's a great study.
That's like a natural progression, but those can be accelerated by poor habits, losing muscle, dieting really poorly, which some of these supplementations related to muscle building can be really helpful,
Right.
like HMB. It's important to note that your body does naturally produce that, so you don't need the supplement. The supplement actually helps you skip a step in making sure you have the sequence right of nutrition. If you get leucine rich foods like whey,
Yes.
eggs, beef,
Uh huh.
you're probably have what you need to kind of naturally produce it. But the problem is that it's like one of those things. Like, yeah, I could probably eat 30 different plants a day and get all of my
Oh man, right?
micronutrient needs, but or I should say a week. But I'm probably not going to get that much variety. I'm probably not going to hit everything. Probably not going to get all my zinc that I need for a good like zinc and copper can be really important for like overall gut microbiome health and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, I probably could get that all in food, but I probably need to learn like what I'm getting and supplement the rest. So supplement that.
Right.
Hence why we have supplementation
Yeah.
to kind of fill
That's
in the
why it's so
gaps.
big. So it's such a big
Have
thing.
you guys ever eaten
Creatine.
like? Have you guys dove into like eating? There was like I went on a fix for a while where I was like obsessed with eating beets. Have you guys eaten beets?
I love
Yeah. Oh
beets.
yeah.
I
You
Yep.
love
love
beets. I
beets?
think they're
This is
so.
because you
I
guys are old.
do.
Yeah,
Oh
dude,
man. Boom. If I knew beets were so good when I was your age, I wouldn't have had the hard times that I did. Oh
if you would have
man.
said Sonny and they're like, listen, Sonny, I would have laughed really
Yeah,
hard.
Shiny. Oh man, I need to get that app filter that makes me all, my hair all white.
Yeah,
Kid
dude.
here, I'll beat you within an inch of your life here. No, the reality is that I've loved beets for a long time. It's not something new, but beets are a great food for you. But really, we don't unless we log it, unless we're doing blood tests annually or biannually. We're really not going to know where our system is. It's all part of a diagnostic situation. We can do our best and get some nice get the lean. Really, the lean rich proteins are awesome. Of course, for some people that don't do animal product, it's going to be harder. You're probably going to be more likely in need of different supplements like creatine or like a BCAA. Those kind of supplements for you that are branched chain amino acids and some other situation. Or an EAA, essentially amino acids that will help support you during your your protein synthesis, the loss of that during your 40s, 50s, and 60s, even up into your 90s.
Yes.
Right.
So
So
I'll say this.
that's
I'm gonna take a stab. I'm gonna be really controversial. You guys ready?
Hear it.
Ready for my controversy? I think BCAs are a complete waste of money to buy. Complete waste of money.
Totally agree.
Here's why.
Totally agree.
Just because if you take away a whey protein shake, you already get your BCAs in it already.
right.
And then if you eat a variety of meats, you're going to be fine. But honestly, like just whey protein, even if you don't eat meats, you're checking those boxes. It is just a money
Right.
grab. It's just not worth money.
Oh, hey
Matter of
man,
fact,
they make them taste so good anymore, though. The BCAAs.
They do taste
got some
really good.
flavors out there.
yes.
Right.
Oh, I've had my I went through a season where I did BCA with whey protein. Then I looked at the case of whey and I'm like, oh wait, it already contains this. What am I
I already
doing?
got it.
But then
Already got it in
but
there.
then
Right.
also I was doing like what was it? I'm forgetting. It was a particular amino acid that I was taking, and I realized that it was like, oh, I was like, hey, I need some stuff for recovery. Like, you should take this specific thing, and it sounded right because they gave me some specific element,
Mhm.
like you should be taking leucine. That's it right there. That's your missing thing. And usually, it's not really the case. But yeah,
Right.
I loved
If you're
I loved your post the other day, John, with like your stack, and it was just like big thing of whey protein, creatine. That's all.
creatine.
I loved that. Like it's so simple, and like people are
Mhm.
like, "What you gotta have?" And it's like, no, you don't gotta
yeah,
have. Like,
yeah,
And
dude.
that's
I mean, first time in a while because I'm just getting leaner. I'm actually
Mhm.
I feel like a skinny kid right now just because I'm like been losing like a lot of fat. But when you lose fat too, you realize like, oh, I'm not as big as I thought I was, just because
uh-huh.
you're like because you have that
yeah,
bulk and it's like it's in your chest and shoulders. But then when you start losing weight, you're like, oh, I'm but it's funny though, I'm getting more compliments in the gym now than when I was like, 25 pounds heavier.
Bulky. Right.
Mhm.
But I had first time
Yeah.
somebody said, "What do you take?" I was like, "Protein and creatine." And they're like, "No, no, no, no. What are you taking?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "That's kind
You
of a compliment, kind
got
of,
some
but no, yeah,
TRT going on over here,
Yeah.
right?
not doing
Yeah, some
TRT."
injections.
Even though that would be a fun discussion. I actually do plan to have some people on who are advocates of hormone replacement therapy. Um, I do know, and we're actually going to talk about testosterone later in this conversation, but like pretty much all supplements to boost testosterone are a waste of money, and they just raise your T levels acutely. Like the big movers
Mhm.
for T levels is actually everything you would do in training, sleep,
Right.
train, eat good foods. That's what's actually going to boost it the most. Then you can
Yeah.
add some other things like sunlight. Like you're basically trying to align with your circadian rhythm well, and then have training, nutrition, circadian rhythm. That's what's going to naturally boost your T levels. But then you can throw these like little things in, um, like ashwagandha type stuff. Did I pronounce that right?
That was pretty close.
Sounded good.
Close enough, right? And it does acutely raise T levels. But see, what people do is they'll just say, "This is the missing puzzle piece. This is gonna take
Well,
you from the
yeah.
low, somebody that's clinically low, like low 200s,
Hmm.
and you're gonna be back at 800. Like feeling youthful,
Right.
man. Your libido is gonna be high." And it's like, nah, it's not gonna work. And so
No,
I
it
think there
won't.
is a case. There is a case to be
Of
made for
course.
somebody who's clinically low, and they're like, I think clinically low is like under 264 on the charts. And if you're hanging out there all the time, you probably do need intervention to bring your
Right.
T levels back up, and probably something like TRT, hormone replacement therapy, probably a good call, but obviously getting blood work done, supervised. So just for
That's it.
those listening in, we're not hating on something like that.
Right.
But I do
Right.
think you got like 18-year-olds jumping on TRT, and that's probably not a good idea.
Right. They're
That'll,
already like their testosterone, unless there's something really wrong with them, their testosterone's already through the roof. It's
yeah, it's
insane.
just throwing off your natural production of it.
Mhm.
I'm not an expert
Which
in
will
that
hurt
field,
them
so
later on.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But I actually have some clients of mine that are on TRT right now, and they did everything with the nutrition and training, and they were stuck. Now, here's the truth: even if your hormones are whacked out, if you're trying to lose weight, and I obviously not going to put someone in a concentration camp, but if I threw you in a concentration camp, you're going to lose weight if you're eating 1,000 calories or less a day. Just going to happen.
Right.
Your hormones could be just like completely whacked out. You're not
Right.
going to come out fat or fatter.
Right.
Not
Right.
going to happen. However, like, you know, when it comes to like helping somebody holistically, with psychologically, physically, um, going on like a really crazy restrictive diet, when what's actually hindering the process is hormones, then it's probably good to get the hormones in place and
Right.
fixed, and then come up with a plan potentially to kind of slowly wean yourself off of TRT. There's some debate too whether or not you can actually wean off of TRT or if you need to be on it for life, but that's another conversation that we could have.
That would
But
be an interesting conversation. I'd like to learn more about that myself.
yeah, us 40-year-olds, we're trying to learn more
I
about this
know.
TRT
I know.
because we're gonna be jacked into our 50s, dude.
Well, not just
Well,
that. I think we're going to find more people as coaches. We're going to find more people that have abused TRT or some other
That's
Yeah.
fair. That's
situations
a really,
that we're
really
gonna
good point.
we're really going to have to
it's
refer them to doctors to get to find out what's really going on, and then can they ever come off of TRT? That's
yeah,
that's going to be a doctor's call, I think. But it's
because
be
I
an
think there's a
interesting
real discussion
conversation.
to be had. Like, do you want to have the testosterone levels of an 18-year-old? Like, we've all been 18, me much more recently than you guys, but
The age slam
but
keeps coming back around.
like
uh,
my parents live in a retirement community, and like there's these hormone clinics that kind of popped up all over the place, and like my parents see the cycles of people like going through and having these like drastic swings, and it's like their behavior, they are acting like 18-year-olds. You see 67-year-olds who are in having
Hmm.
the reasoning and the sex drive of an 18-year-old. Like it's very, like it would be comedic if it wasn't so sad. Like to and it's unfortunate that people are
They better
using
get on a
very,
routine. They diet and exercise because they're going to pull something, and it's not going to be
yeah,
it's not
exactly.
going to be good.
Wow.
Oh man,
You went there, Dave. You went there all
I had
jumped
to.
with,
I had
yeah.
to. I was
Yeah.
seeing John's face. I was wondering if he was going to, so I beat him to the punch.
You
Well, I
beat me
think
to the
that
punchline. I don't know,
that kind
guys,
of
though,
brings
like,
us
man, I thought, like, when I looked at 40-year-olds when I was in my 20s, like, do they even have a sex life or anything? I mean, they're probably,
right,
They're pretty much dead. I
yeah,
mean, so
just,
probably not.
yeah, just the machinery
right.
still
Like
work. But, like,
it
but
does. It
yeah,
does.
thanks,
And
Dave.
I got to
Thanks.
encourage you. Yeah, it's almost better now because it's controlled. We're going into a whole new
Brought to you by
conversation.
Cialis.
Hey, so
Boom.
AJ, you started this, and now you got
Yes, you
these.
did.
It just gets better
40-year-olds
from
talking
I'm-
about, hey,
If
listen,
you show me a
I'm just,
screensaver of you and your wife sitting in two bathtubs, like with the sun setting, I'm out. All
oh
right,
man,
here.
like
my wife is going to kill me if that ever happened.
Oh,
Uh,
that's funny.
no, but getting into some other stuff, like we've talked about the protein, upping your protein, making sure your nutrition's dialed in, but also exercise. I think sometimes once we hit that brick at 35, 40, even up, we try to go. At least I did when I in my 30s and overweight. I tried to outwork my diet.
Mm.
Um, instead of looking at the science and finding out, okay, I don't need to be just lifting heavy, but I need to get my activity level up. I need to get at least 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week, and a minimum of 2 days a week of resistance training to get healthy, because that does boost your testosterone with things like leg press, bench press. Leg press is by far what I've seen the best at boosting that, and squats at boosting your testosterone levels just as a workout, concerning workouts. But we often think, okay, we go one of two ways. We either overdo it and we get injured, so we can't do anything, or we just say, forget it. I don't feel like doing it anymore. My diet, my lifestyle's going to be more of work like crazy at work, and then come home and crash on the lazy boy and eat potato chips and just forget everything else exists. And I'm sure there's a spectrum of different mentalities, but I'm just saying as a whole, we could fall into those things. And if we don't regulate our workouts to where we're not overtraining, that could be an issue. And then the other is true. If we're under training, just going on a walk, like a 10-15 minute walk a couple times a day, is going to change your life. It's going to change everything. So I think we should talk more about that, like getting some
Yeah.
exercise in, as well as making sure your nutrition is dialed in at these different stages of life. Because
Mm.
there are a few 65-year-olds that can bench press as much as John, uh, that it's going to be few and far between. And if they're not focusing on form, they're just focused on getting the weight up, it's going to cause more injury, which causes them to lose the ability to work out in that manner. So I think we should talk kind of about that for a little bit. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I do think that the topic of overtraining or just training in general, just understanding like recovery takes longer. And everyone who gets older kind of picks up on this intuitively. They just realize like, oh, hey, I'm not as flexible as I used to be.
Mhm.
Oh,
Right.
my agility is not there. I'm not as fast as I used to be. I'm not recovering as much as I used to be. Now, there's ways to mitigate all of those things to a level, but the truth is, even if you're like an advanced athlete, very conditioned, like there might be some people who they've been training for years, they're in their 60s, but they actually have a higher endurance level than all of us. You know, they can
Right.
outperform all of us. AJ's like, yeah, I just experienced that at the
Yeah.
triathlon.
Yeah.
But that person in their 60s probably their conditioning in some ways might be better, but generally speaking, there's probably a slight decline in their ability to recover at that age than
Hmm.
they did in their 50s or even their 40s. There was this article done by Fell and Williams and colleagues in 2008 that basically hashed out the like why this is the case. They said that age may impair muscle recovery due to an increased susceptibility to exercise induced damage. So, in other words, when you exercise, you recruit muscle damage, and the ability to recover from that, like not only are you more, um, you know, positioned to recruit more muscle damage, you just don't recover from it as fast, and it slows like the repairing mechanism down.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, even if you have good high protein, um, you're not overtraining, you probably still need to have more recovery. And this is why a lot of guys will switch to like 3 to 4 days of training as opposed to like 6 days of training,
Right.
something like that. That might be like a good call. Or they lessen the volume in the days. They still train 6 days a week, but it's smaller volume segments. But what people think a lot of times is like, oh, I'm starting to lose my ability to recover. I should stop working out with heavy weights. And it's not about not lifting heavy or training
Yeah.
hard or training to failure or progressive overload. It's all about realizing like, hey, it's going to take me longer to recover. And this is also relates to like injuries. Like it just takes longer to recover from injuries as you get older. So you want to make sure that you're dialing in not only taking longer to recover, but as you're going about it, you're like, hey, I'm going to make sure that I prioritize my sleep, my hydration. Hydration's important. You can get really crampy if you don't have enough water while you're working out.
Yeah.
Um, Probably good to have deloads. Man, when I was training in my 20s, I never deloaded. I never stopped training. I just train. But when I started getting my 30s, I started to get some irritations, But
Yeah.
when I started to
Mhm.
learn how to train better, particularly learning how to like say, oh, you know what? Sometimes you have to rotate exercises off because of an irritation.
Right.
Sometimes you just need a good deload. And then when I dialed in my training, not only did I make better progression in my 30s than I did in my 20s because I allow myself to recover, um, but it also allowed my joints and ligaments to have necessary rest periods as well.
Right.
So, anyways, yeah, I think
Well,
those are
sleep.
some. Go ahead.
Yeah, sleep and hydration. They kind of fight each other as you get older. I wish people would have told me. Now I'm only 40, so it doesn't happen a lot. But when I really focused on hydration and getting the right amount of fluid in, I was waking up at a certain time every night, having to go to the bathroom, right? And I know this just because of conversations with older individuals that doesn't let up. That's part of the poor sleep cycles that we talk about. I would be interested in finding some studies on how to alleviate some of those some of those trips to the bathroom as we get older. I don't know what that is because I'm not there like 100%. I wake up every morning at the same time, 4 o'clock, and my bladder's full, and that walk to the restroom actually helps me wake up, so that way I can get my morning meditation in, prayer time, study, and just some contemplation for the day. So I use that to my benefit, but that means I go to bed a little earlier. So I go to bed to make sure I get my 7 hours in at minimum. So I
Yeah.
would wonder, that's just for me looking at like, okay, I understand that this is going to be combat each other. Good hydration and good sleep. How are we going to be able to mitigate that, manage that as we get into older age periods? I think that would be a great study to look into. I'm thinking just
Yeah.
understanding your body, talking to your doctor about some different options would be a great help in mitigating that.
So I do have a thought, but I think this would be worth like actually looking more into the studies. I'm actually not even sure the amount of work that's done on that topic. That's would be interesting to explore.
Mm.
But it's kind of like one of these things. If I work out really hard and I haven't trained in a while, I'm going to be really sore. But the more I work out hard, the less sore I'm going to be. When you hydrate consistently, your body gets used to the amount of fluid that it's taking in. So
Oh,
you don't
well,
have
yeah,
those as much crazy rushes. But if you have like high day, really crazy, a gallon and a half day, here we go. And the next
right,
day it's
right.
low. And then you go really high again. And then
That
you don't do it for a while. Then you
inconsistency.
jump back at it. Yeah, you're gonna be all over the place. But
Hmm.
you'll get used to it. But also I do think there's a point where people might actually overhydrate. It's like you really don't need, for the most part, unless you're like a crazy athlete and you're sweating a ton, you don't really need a gallon of water a day. Like it's like just unnecessary. You might get close to
Yeah.
that, but you don't necessarily need a gallon and a half. I remember guys talking about 2 gallons of water a day.
Well,
Like
I'd be
I was good
floating.
enough with the one. I would carry that
Yeah.
jug around. Bodybuilding
Yep.
jug.
I
That's
still
funny.
have one. I still have one underneath my sink,
Yeah.
right?
I
I never
it's
use
nice
it
it's nice
anymore.
to be able to see where your water's at during the day, just like
Yeah.
one jug down it. But yeah,
Now,
it's
I think if you add to that, like, I'm sure there's other issues involved, like coffee. I'm a big coffee drinker. So you add coffee to that, you add soda to that, like diets and Coke Zeros. And now we got all these cool zero sodas out there, like Dr. Pepper and all these amazing things that taste so good. I'm sure that's going to impact your pee cycle, right? I'm sure
yeah.
that's going to have some. So that'd be a great study. And then, of course, I think the food you eat also uh, also hits that recovery time and sleep time as well. Like it's
Yeah.
not great to eat a bowl of chili before bed. That's just not smart. I don't
It's
care.
nice.
I mean, maybe at 18 or AJ's age, but not mine.
I
I can't
love
eat a bowl of chili and
this age battle that's going on here. That's awesome. I actually saw AJ smile when we were talking about going to the bathroom at night and all stuff. He's like over there smiling. I was like, he is practicing
he
restraint. Look at this
he
guy.
doesn't
He's
know.
great.
He
Uh,
doesn't know yet. He has no idea.
So to
You know,
recap, oh,
actually,
right.
oh,
No,
sorry,
no,
I
go
was
ahead.
just gonna. So I found that one of the big things that affected like with just was my salt, my sodium levels. If I was sweating, like having like a really hard workout, and my sodium levels drop, I would be consuming water because I would be thirsty. But what I found that really ended up impacting that was your body needs sodium to help it. I'm gonna
Oh, it's
speak a
an
little bit out
electrolyte.
of, yeah, it allows the water to pass like the cell barrier basically, is this best way I can explain it. And if you don't have enough sodium, then like you can be dehydrated even if you're drinking plenty of water. And so like that can really help with retaining water as well. So just
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
sure
that
you can
electrolytes is
explain that
another
better,
thing
but
that's
that's
amazing.
my that's as far out on that ledge or limb as I want to crawl without doing a
yeah,
little bit
yeah.
more study on it.
Especially like I mean, um, actually, aging adults and sodium would be an interesting conversation. Definitely for like athletes that are just sweating a lot, and you need to replace the salt, not just the water intake to like equal out, if that makes sense. But that would be
Mhm.
something definitely to talk more on. To recap this episode for those listening in, make sure that this is cohesive, that you guys are walking away with like, okay, what changes? Protein synthesis slows down, so you want to make sure that you don't do less protein but more. And we gave you some stats for that. Recovery takes longer, so you want to make sure that you're just really paying attention to your body. Like there's no like at 40 do this, at 50 do this, at 60 do this exactly, because for it's different for different people. But just realize where you're at. You might have to go from 6 training sessions a week down to 4 or 5 or 3. Um, but I'll tell you what doesn't change here in a minute. But that's something that might change. You want to prioritize that recovery. Actually, younger people probably would do better if they prioritize recovery too. They just can get away with less recovery. Like they're just body's much more resilient. So when you get older
Right.
and it's not as resilient, you're like, oh, hey, I can't ignore this anymore. So that's important. And the last thing is we did touch on this, but we didn't give it like a title. But you want to pay attention to your hormones shifting.
Right.
And so basically, your testosterone declines 1% every year after the age of 30. I don't know if that pairs well with what you were studying, AJ, but that's
Yeah, that's
probably pretty consistent, like 1%. And for some, they might actually have other reasons why their T levels are dipping. And it's not just, that's not the only hormone that you want to pay attention to. Your cortisol levels you want to pay attention to, and there's
Yeah.
others. But if you go in every quarter or every 6 months and get a blood test, you can basically see where your stats are, and you can make nutritional adjustments based on your blood work, and also training adjustments, sleep adjustments, which is going to help you with your dialing in your training with a great more level of specificity. So that's the 3 things that I would really focus on. And just to close things off, like what doesn't change? Progressive overload still drives gains at every age.
Absolutely.
Form and execution becomes even more important. Recovery and consistency matters more than just chasing PRs. Now that's really important. Like, like powerlifting is great and you can lift really heavy. You probably want to slow down on testing what your 1 rep maxes are at one point. Like not every gym session should be, what's my new max? You probably want to be careful with that. And that's in connection to joint health, recovery speeds. It's just not the best way to train. Matter of fact, if you always go in and try to PR, you're probably leaving gains on the table on what you could do if you just train the muscles rather than training the ego. Mobility and joint care becomes essential for training longevity. So you want to be thinking like, I want to have mobility. Sorry, somebody called me while that was going on. But thank you guys so much for jumping on. This was great. If you have any questions for us, reach out to us. If you need coaching, reach out to us. Dave is coaching, AJ is coaching, myself is coaching. We'd love to be able to help you. I will actually put their social media in the show notes so that you guys can reach out. Dave was doing this beta launch for his coaching. I don't know if he still has spots open. Do you have spots open?
I have one spot. I have one spot open for that.
1 spot left.
Get in there quick.
Get it done.
No, I just got a couple calls while doing this, so hopefully I have 0 spots by the time you get this, but maybe I'll have 1 spot.
So I'll hold them, guys. Wait, I can't post this while I'm holding it, so never mind.
Oh man, hold me down. Can't answer those calls.
Until
all right, thanks. Time. God bless you guys.
We'll see you guys.
Appreciate y'all.